Okay, so what I'm going to attempt to do now is pull together the last videos you saw from Khan Academy and ACDC Econ. They explain aggregate demand and aggregate supply as well as I ever could. But having said that, again, they use slightly different terminology than a book does, slightly different approach. To me, it's a far more intuitive approach. But having said that, I'm going to try and pull it all together for you with the book in the next in this video and the next video. Okay, so here's the gist of it. You've got real GDP, okay, on the horizontal axis. You've got the general price level on the vertical axis. You've got aggregate supply in the short run, and you have aggregate demand in the short run. Okay, now when the economy's at potential, okay, so when the unemployment rate equals the natural rate of unemployment, in other words, there's only structural and frictional unemployment out there, there's no cyclical unemployment, then the economy's at potential. In other words, it's fully employed, okay, with its existing level of technology, etc., etc. It's fully employed. And that would be, say, this initial level of equilibrium, okay? And so we will call that our GDP star. That's our initial equilibrium level. And this is our initial price level at full employment. Now, this here is what Khan Academy and ACDC Econ were calling long-run aggregate supply, okay? And, you know, it's simply potential, when the economy is at potential. It's simply when the economy is in its natural state, okay? There's no recession and there's no rapid expansion. It's just simply cruising through its long-run growth rate, whatever that is. So that's when the economy's at potential. No business cycle, okay? Having said that, so how does this diagram work, okay? Well, you know, assume that aggregate demand increases for one of the reasons we saw earlier. Remember, aggregate demand is influenced by C, I, G, and NX. Okay, so if those components change for whatever reason, and the book gives some reasons why those components change, even though they don't explicitly say it's those components, I don't know why, but that's just the way the book is. So let's assume one of those components change and aggregate demand increases. Well, now output is above potential, okay? The economy has expanded. This is going to push wages up, okay? So this is going to be going to reflect unemployment below the natural rate, okay? So employees can command higher prices. They can command greater wages. Well, when this occurs, then this is going to lower the supply of goods and services and shift the aggregate supply curve back to the left, bringing the economy back to full employment. So the way you look at this is if during a business cycle, what's causing this business cycle is some increase in C, I, G, or NX. It's pushing aggregate demand to the right. It expands the economy, okay? It increases real GDP. That puts upward pressure on wages, which then decreases aggregate supply, and we get a return to potential GDP. On the flip side, okay, on the flip side, you could have a situation in the business cycle, excuse me, I keep putting Q, but remember that's just aggregate Q, so it's the same thing. So real GDP is just aggregate Q. It's Q, you add up all the markets from introductory micro and you get our real GDP. I've explained that before in previous videos. Okay, so we got aggregate demand. We've got aggregate supply. It's sitting in its long run. In other words, it's sitting at potential. Okay, so we've got real GDP star, and that equilibrates at some P star. So let's assume that a negative shock hits consumption, investment, government spending, and so forth, and government spending or net exports, and you get a leftward shift in the aggregate demand curve. Well, now the economy is working below potential, okay? So, and if this lasts at least 2 quarters, that would be called a recession, okay? Well, during a recession, unemployment rates rise. If the economy is working below potential, we know that cyclical unemployment is positive, okay? So unemployment rates go up. Firms can then negotiate lower wages. When they negotiate lower wages with workers, this reduces their production costs, and this increases aggregate supply to the right, okay? Back to potential, okay? So once again, in this business cycle situation, something negatively shocks C, I, G, or NX, okay? One of those 4 falls. Aggregate demand shifts to the left. The economy contracts, okay? Unemployment rises. Employees or employers negotiate lower wages with employees. This reduces input costs, shifting aggregate supply to the left, bringing the economy back to full employment.